Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment. Wilton Jackson II is in the house, and in fact, he's moved from the adjunct professor role to the visiting professor role. Welcome to the family. You've gotten the update. I told you get that outro right, man. You never know what happens. We always great.
No, for sure. I'm just glad. I'm glad to get that bump.
I know it. You know it. Hey, that bump is always good. It's coming into the holiday season, so it's gonna do something. A little gas money, a little some extra socks or two that you can buy for Christmas. Something. Maybe you can buy some nachos at the game. Charles, how you doing today?
Doing well, Doc. First and foremost, I want to send thoughts and prayers to our friends and family in the path right now of the tropical disturbance out in the Gulf that looks like it's going to strengthen into a hurricane. So definitely want to send thoughts and prayers to those individuals, because tell you what, just going through that experience is not fun. So whatever you have to do, hunker down or get out of there, make sure you do that.
I appreciate you saying that. I was going to do the same, and certainly we're going to try to muscle through the show. We don't seem affected by rain, but you never know how they come. So we're going to be praying for everybody, but be mindful that we may have some blips here and there in regards to the show, just so you know. With that being said, before I get in the news of the day, Charles, it seems like you are representing appropriately. Can you open up maybe your jacket just a little bit to make sure that people understand? Nope. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I got it.
That is my job too. I appreciate that. It's timely to see that shirt today.
Very much so.
Everybody knows what today is, the debate. We won't get too far into that, and hope folks resonate and make, more importantly, versus whatever happens to debate tonight, is make sure they go out and vote. Very timely to make sure you do that. Obviously, folks that are connected with historically Black colleges and universities, as well as the Black community, the Black diaspora in America, understand the importance that what folks fought for is for you to have the opportunity to vote. So I think it's part of your duties as people associated with those that had supported that from the past. That being said, Charles, what else is on your mind today?
No doubt, we got SWAC, Football Weekly Honors. Let's take a look. The SWAC has tabbed Grambling State's Miles Crawley, Alabama State's Traquan Thomas, Southern's Joshua Griffin, and Xavier Tset, along with Jackson State's Cameron McCoy, for SWAC Football Weekly Honors for their outstanding performances during this past week of the regular season competition. Let's take a look at the Offensive Player of the Week. Miles Crawley, career day in Grambling State's 37-20 win over Tuskegee. Threw for a career-high 304 yards and 4 touchdowns, 16 of 26 passing. By halftime, he had helped Grambling craft a 37-3 lead, throwing for 297 yards and 4 touchdowns before the break. Huge game for Miles Crawley. On the defensive side of the ball, Traquan Thomas for the Hornets registered 6 tackles, including 4 solo stops this past weekend for Alabama State, as he contributed 3 sacks and also forced 3 fumbles during Alabama State's 24-3 win over Miles. We take a look at the specialist, Joshua Griffin from the Southern Jaguars. He connected on 3 field goals during Southern's 42-10 win over Savannah State. He was successful on field goal attempts of 38, 44, and 49 yards, along with 3 extra point attempts during the contest. And we have newcomers of the week this past week is Cameron McCoy for Jackson State. He rushed for 107 yards and a pair of touchdowns on just 6 carries and passed for another 100 yards. He was 5 of 9 passing with 2 touchdowns during Jackson State's win over Lane. He scored on runs of 20 and 60 while also completing a touchdown, throws of 1 and 28 yards. The other newcomer of the week, well, this will be an interesting matchup, is Mr. T-Set, Xavion T-Set. He entered the game midway through the second quarter and never looked back, throwing for a career-high 316 yards during Southern's non-conference win over Savannah State. He also contributed 3 passing touchdowns while connecting with 8 different receivers during the contest. So those are your SWAC players of the week.
Great points. Kudos to the SWAC players of the week. And as you said, there's a big matchup. We might get into that at the last segment, and you made mention of how that may be even more interesting. With that being said, let me go to Wilton. Wilton, what's on your mind in terms of HBCU sporting news of the day?
You know, Dr. Cavil, I'm just, like I said, I'm ready for another week of college football. Charles kind of alluded to it. It's a big game this weekend. And, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. Of course, last week we were talking about how are some of these D2 schools are going to stack up against Division I schools. And some of them, you know, for the most part, handle business. Well, most of them handle business like they were supposed to in most cases. So I was kind of excited about that. Some I'm still a little worried about. Alabama State being one, even though, you know, they only scored 24 points against Miles, but they got the win. Still some concerns there. But I'm excited for another week. You know, I'm also looking at that Norfolk State game this week, Norfolk State and Hampton. Really excited to watch that one. And then just another great week.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the Alabama State game. I got to watch that game. You're right. In terms of the point differential, is relatively close. But if you had a chance to watch that game, a majority of it, it really wasn't that close. They dominated that game, particularly defensively. And I just thought Miles would be able to do more offensively. But, you know, two data points, as Mike would like to say, it's always hard. And I remind folks after week 1, Charles always tell folks to get off the ledge. You know, you talk about moving from week 1 to week 2 to improvement. A freshman third-string quarterback, essentially in a fourth-string. I thought Alabama State actually made a statement in terms of being able to get that victory based on all the factors that are going on. I agree with you. What does that mean moving forward when you play strong in competition? But Miles, in terms of what we thought and what they did to him last year, I thought that was a pretty fundamental statement they were able to make in terms of what they look like. So it's interesting as you stack up these data points. You know, this is chapter, if you would, 103 in terms of SWAC history. Each year is a chapter, and each week is a sub-chapter, if you would, in that book of the chapter 103 in terms of this novel, if you would, for SWAC, and that's true for each of the conferences. Charles, what other news of the day do you have on your mind?
Yeah, let's take a look at the MEAC as they announced their weekly football honors. Let's take a look at was Howard running back Jared Hunter and Norfolk State's quarterback Jalen Daniels. They were MEAC co-offensive players of the week. Also, fellow Bison Terrence Holland, he earned the defensive player of the week honors, while South Carolina State's Kyle Gallegos was named the rookie of the week. And of course, the MEAC, they do something novel. They look out for the offensive lineman. So this Bulldog teammate, Dick Taste, received the offensive lineman of the week accolades, and Howard's Dylan West was named the specialist of the week. Let's quickly take a look at some stats from the players of the week for the MEAC. Jared Hunter, 5'11", 200-pound redshirt junior. He amassed 126 rushing yards and responsible for 3 touchdowns, a career high in Howard's miraculous 32-31 win over Mercyhurst. He also recorded 1 catch for 10 yards. The 126-yard performance was Hunter's 5th 100-yard game in his career. Jalen Daniels for Norfolk State. He registered 231 yards of total offense in the Spartans' 28-23 win over Virginia State. Connected on 14-21 passes for 210 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also ran 31 yards on 11 carries with 1 touchdown. Of course, we mentioned Terrence Holland. He earned the defensive player of the week for the Howard Bison. The 6'1", 220-pound senior collected 8 tackles, 7 of them of the solo variety in the Bison's win against Mercyhurst. The senior also recorded 2 forced fumbles with 1 fumble recovery. And we take a look at the specials of the week. Gallegos for South Carolina State. He recorded 1 field goal in the Bulldogs win over Citadel. He also registered 310 yards on 5 kickoffs with 3 touchbacks and a 62-yard average. So those were your players of the week over there on the MEAC side of the ball.
Big deal, big deal. I want to ask both of you this question. You may have heard about Shannon Sharpe's comments on Nightcap. He was on there, obviously, with this co-author, if you would, a host of that show, FAMU ambassador, all-pro wide receiver Chad Ochocinco Johnson. And he made reference that he doesn't want HBCU to take less than $1 million to play FBS program. And I imagine when he's talking about FBS, he's talking about the Power 5 schools, or at least for our conversation. Let's make it for the Power 4 that it is now. Not so much would you like that. Obviously, I think we would all agree. Get as much as you can. For those that may not know, the going rate for FBS programs, G5 level, if you would, is probably about 300, 350 to 450. And if you're talking about the P4, you're talking about anywhere from 400, let's say on the low side, to 550. There's some cases with special circumstances, team needs emergency game, maybe bringing in the band. You can see those inch up to 500 to 750. Rarely do you see anything higher than that. Maybe you might see an 8 in there somewhere. But my question to you is, what are some things that you think would be necessary to put HBCUs in positions to command $1 million? What can they do in the marketplace to put themselves in a better position to negotiate for $1 million, Charles?
Oh, that's an interesting question, Doc. What can they put themselves? What can they do to put themselves in position? I don't know. It's a sort of a catch-22 because I guess as an AD or institution, you have to recognize the power of your brand. And unfortunately, right now we have, like you mentioned, there's sort of a precedent in terms of where the ceiling is on particular games. So it becomes an interesting proposition because does your fan base, do they travel to the games? Is your band enough of a brand identity to bring the value of that institution commanding that type of number? So I think there are numerous factors that go into that because obviously there are certain brands within the HBCU environment where there's a lot of fan enthusiasm. So they can command an upwards figure, especially when you take a look at not just the football team, the brand value, but the band brand value as well that brings a certain element to the game. So it becomes tough when I take a look at, like you said, sort of the highest of that end, commanded maybe 700,000, 750 to some extent like that. So, if I'm the opposing AD, I'm taking a look at what you guys have already negotiated. I'm like, guys, this is as much as you're going to get. So I don't know if there are enough athletic directors in place who recognize the power of their brand identity.
Wilton, do you have any thoughts on that? How, again, not whether they should, but how do you create an environment to negotiate, $1 million?
Dr. Cavil, I think it's tough, but I'm going to add to something that Charles said that he kind of was going to probably allude to as well. I think it also depends on how well your program is in the particular conference that you're playing in. If you're a program that's constantly competing for a championship each year, like say, for example, over the last couple of years, before last year, FAMU, like you look at a program like FAMU and the SWAC, if you're them, you're going to be constantly looking to make, if I'm an AD looking at my program and FAMU is my program, I'm looking to say, you know what, we're constantly competing for a title or a division crown. We have a strong fan base. Our fans are going to travel. We have a lot of fans across, different parts of the country. And then it also, I think it depends on what team you're playing and what part of the country they're in too. Because if that maybe could potentially play a role in the type or the number of fans is going to come to the game. So, like, for example, it's a lot of FAMU fans across the Southeast. It's also a lot of FAMU fans in DC. It's a lot of FAMU fans in a lot of major cities. So if you're playing a team that's in like a major city or within a major region of the country, and you're a strong team within your country, I think as an AD, you could potentially advocate for a little bit more.
Yeah, I'll give you the cheat code. But let me say this first. Tennessee State played Notre Dame, and they were able to get close to $1 million with everything, and they added some research. It was a niche kind of game when you think about Notre Dame, quasi-independent. I don't even like to call them independent because they played several games in ACC, but quasi-independent. Right. It was the first time that Notre Dame was playing the FCS program. They picked Tennessee State, but it has a lot of history in terms of that connection, and they were able to do it. But the cheat code answer is if and when HBCUs or a conference can move to the FBS level. Obviously, as an FBS program, you automatic pretty much command, right, $1 million, $1.5 million. For example, Northern Illinois was paid $1.4 million in their upset win over Notre Dame. People was readily available to tell everybody about that. Obviously, last year you saw it with Buffalo coming in there and doing that. So that's one way, but that's kind of the cheat code, right? The other way is going to be a lot more difficult, which is what you're alluding to. It's going to take all the HBCU, FBS, ADs, VPs of athletics, or a significant large enough group of them to come together and saying, hey, we are only going to play these games for this amount of money. And that puts you in a better bargaining position to be able to negotiate it over some period of time. At first, you might get pushed back. But at some point, in terms of the natural dimensions of negotiations and things of that nature, you could put yourself in a much better position to get closer to that $1 million, if not the $1 million in terms of negotiating. But just wanted to kind of put that out there because I thought it was a different thing because most folks and fans will come out and readily say, yeah, they should get $1 million. But I wanted to get the framework of what other schools are getting and how you have to consider about taking drastic measures to really put yourself in a position to get that $1 million. And it's not something that's evident. And that's why I wanted to kind of pick at y'all and see your thoughts on it. Great information there. Let's take our first break. We'll turn it to the other side, come back. Time to release the poll rankings. Major division poll rankings. And this will be pretty much, as we're looking at it, it'll be the last Tuesday we release the rankings this late. We're going to try something different. On Sunday, we're looking at releasing the poll rankings on Sunday during our Sunday show. So I'm going to have to stay up a little early, put all the data in. We're going to release Sunday, see if we can get it right out for you, which means we'll be able to push the mid-majors to Tuesday in terms of the rankings. So we'll see how it plays off and see what you're talking about, what that looks like. Obviously, I'm glad they put up their Southern at LSU, 750. Again, that was a niche, very unique opportunity. Grambling and Southern were the last HBCUs at the FCS level to play LSU, and there was a lot of political dynamics of saying that game must be played because the black HBCUs at the FCS level were the last one to play. That's because some folks in the area really didn't want to play LSU, probably because they didn't play them previously when during 60s, 50s when the talent pool was much differential. So it's interesting to see all these dynamics that play in this. But let's take our next break and get back into the major division as we release it for, it seems, the last time on Tuesday, at least for a while, as we move to Sunday releases. Charles, I got you with that one. Kind of like that. Yeah, I asked you. With that, stick with me right back after this break, and I'll get your thoughts on the other side, Charles.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be.
You could be a free hot breakfast hero at a comfort hotel.
Yes!
That's how you waffle.
Mr. This Script got a plot twist at a Radisson hotel.
A business big leaguer.
Go for key.
Even the ultimate pool float inflator.
With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you. Book direct at choicehotels.com, where travels come true.
Gotta get the corners.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted CAVIL'S voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. CAVIL'Svoice.com. CAVIL'S Voice, CAVIL'S Voice, CAVIL'svoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
At Automasters LLC, our mission is to serve our community by providing quality automobiles at affordable prices. All of our vehicles are inspected and certified to offer you the confidence in knowing you have a quality vehicle. Our goal is to provide you with a seamless process and positive experience for your automobile purchase. Financing recommendations and specific vehicle inquiries are available at your request. You can find us at www.automasters06.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please feel free to contact Terrence Miles at 601-927-7794. And oh yeah, tell him Sonia sent you.
Compress the analytic data. Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Yes, I'm ready to release the Major Division Week 2. A lot of folks are looking for this. Charles, I wanted to get your comments in terms of switching to Sunday. You know, I wanted to surprise you a little bit because I know you would peek up and be like, oh, he had that business stuff for me. What are your thoughts on moving the release from Tuesday to Sunday?
Yeah, it's good going into the week where these teams will be ranked. And I think you're going to have a lot of SIDs that are going to pick up on this and make sure that goes out with their media releases and whatnot. So I love it. I love the fact that it's at the beginning of the week. So, yeah, that's a smart move. Smart move.
That's right. Wilton, now in your calls to the media day, you can ask the coaches. You know, you moved up. You're the number one ranked team, coach. Are you going on road to take on the number one ranked team? You know, what are your thoughts about this? How are you going to move on this? So you're absolutely right, Charles. That is part of the madness. With that being said, let me get in here and get to this major division release, as we said on Tuesday, as we start moving to Sunday. With that being said, there's a couple of teams dropped out this weekend. Dropped out was Tennessee State Tigers. They fell to 1-1. They went up to North Dakota State. Really a difficult time there. You know, people expected that would be a challenge. Maybe not that Tennessee State could hold themselves a little better. They get a good chance to redeem themselves this week against Arkansas Pine Bluff. But Pine Bluff made a statement in themselves, so it'll be interesting to see in the Southern Heritage Classic, absent Jackson State for the second year. It'll be fascinating to see what takes place in this matchup. Receiving votes, talking about Jackson State, none other than the Jackson State Tigers. They got a big win over Lane. They go to 1-1 on the season, 142 points as they are in the mix. Then you got Prairie View A&M, the Panthers there, sit at 1-1, 0-1 in the conference race, but they got a big rebound on the road Northwestern State, they almost let it get away, but credit to them. When it's time to buckle the chin belts, if you would, and get it done, they had essentially 2 goal line stances, if we say what the coaches said, as he stopped them once. But at that time, they'd called the timeout. They had to do it again where it counted, and they got it done, and they got out of there with the 1-point victory. Howard Bison, talking about another thriller game. Howard Bison improved to 1-1. At home, they got a win over Mercyhurst, as they got a last minute game clinching field goal. This is after they blocked a point after where Mercyhurst took the lead, and All-American cornerback went and ran it down and ran it back and got the 2-point conversion, such that the field goal would put them in position to win. Exactly, Charles. We talked about this Sunday, and you talking about Gallup got it done. Wild weekend there. Let's get into where it really gets good. Yes, Charles, it was wild. What did you think?
Miraculous.
Word of the day. I wonder what they're going to nickname that game at Howard in terms of that. Obviously, that big win that sent them to the celebration against Celebration Bowl in terms of this new era, if you would, of Howard Bison football is up there. But this has to be pretty memorable, particularly when you talk about fans and the way they react about how things go down. Let's get into the top 7 and see who are the vaunted top 7. Texas Southern Tigers, they fall 2 spots. They're still in the top 7. 1-1, took on Rice, got beat up pretty well going across the street, got the check, but they failed. Coach Dishman said they talked too much on the podcast celebrating that win over Prairie View, or they might found themselves in a much better position. We'll see what that means. At number 6, Alabama State improves 1 spot from 7 after the tough neutral site loss in the Orange Blossom Classic against North Carolina Central Eagles. They bounce back against Miles, in-state foe. I don't know if you want to call it a rival or not since it's at the Division II level, but since Miles Golden Bears gave it to you last year, I'll call it a rival this time. But they get a little putback, if you would, in terms of getting it done in a game. Wilton talked a little bit about it and told you 24-7 victory there in that matchup. Hornets improved to 1-1, 163 points as they move up 1 spot in week number 2. Bringing us to number 5, Delaware State Hornets. They were off this weekend. Being off has still allowed them to actually improve a spot. Remember last week they got the big victory, first time it seems in forever. They got a FCS win. They get it done. And they were open this week. As they move next week, it'll be fascinating to see how they move forward. And another FCS matchup, non-conference game. Can they make it 2 in a row? Right now, they're sitting at 1-1, 177 points. At number 4, we bring you the Bulldogs of South Carolina State. 1-1 on the season. 1 first-place vote, I think is interesting as they move in there. And an update should be there, as that should be South Carolina State in terms of that matchup going in that direction. They're 1-1. They got the big win over the Citadel. Some people call it the Battle of the Bulldogs. Well, they got the Bulldog trophy. They must have had the bigger bite. They get it done 1-1 there, as they have 185. They were not ranked as they fell off after preseason, but they're back in the mix at number 4 with a big win. Bringing us to number 3, Morgan State Bears get it done at 1-1. They have a tough loss against Townsend, the Cross City opponent. I don't even want to call it a rival because it just hadn't been that. They're being getting smacked around. Now, it's respectable. 2 years in a row. But as Charles said, thought it was going to be just a little more offense. No, Morgan State could not deliver enough points to get the victory on the road at Morgan State. But they hold steady at 3. At number 2, North Carolina Central Eagles with a tough road loss against Elon. They got kind of beat up in that matchup, so they fall from number 1. They still have 4 first-place votes, 219 points, but they're no number 1 no longer, which means we have a new number 1 this week, and it's none other than the Rattlers of the SWAC, Florida A&M, 2-1 on the season. Yes, they went to Miami. Some people have Miami top 10. AP poll team couldn't get too much, able to move down the field. FAMU tried to do what they could do, but they fall with the first loss of the season, 2-1. They do jump over North Carolina Central with their loss, Some people thought they should already be at number one. Maybe that's what happened here. 6 first place votes, 221 points early in the season, but week number 2, guess who's found themselves back at the top? Nothing but the Rattlers. Strike, strike, strike again, as they would like to say down there in Tallahassee. That being said, I'm going to let our promotion guy that moved from adjunct professor to visiting professor, Wilton Jackson II, I'm going to allow him to jump in here and tell me, what does he think about the top 7 this week in the poll rankings?
So, Dr. Cavil, before I get to explain it, I'm just glad I'm gonna take a chapter out of Charles' book. Texas Southern's still here. We still see a Texas Southern helmet in the top 7. So we good. It's good to see that. And I actually agree with them being at number 7. So I was glad to see that. We knew that it was gonna be a tough outing for them against Rice. But I'm glad to see them still at 7. With Alabama State at 6, I'm okay with that too. I still, again, moving forward for Alabama State, I still want to see as they continue to navigate between the freshman quarterback that they have and John O'Brien, I need to know that they're going to be able to score more than 24 points in a game. It was good enough to beat Miles, and we knew we had high expectations for Miles, but I need to know that they can score some more points. I'm not worried about the defense, but I need to know that they can score some more points. Delaware State at 5. Personally, I probably would have put Prairie View. I could have easily swapped Delaware State for Prairie View only because Delaware State was off, number 1, and Prairie View got the win against Northwestern State that some might have argued to say, okay, we didn't necessarily think it would be a blowout against Northwestern State, but they got the win against Northwestern State. And the number 2 reason I say they could be added is just because, and you kind of alluded to it, Dr. Bill, Prairie View always finds a way to get a win some type of way. So I probably would have switched Delaware State and Prairie View. South Carolina State, I keep them at 4. Morgan State, I'm okay with them at number 3. Central at 2. And with FAMU at number 1, I'm okay with that as well.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, Alabama State comments are right on point. I'm not sure if they have to continue to play the freshmen. That's asking a lot, but we shall see. Your point with Prairie View, that's a pretty good one. I like what you said there. Delaware State says they have an FCS win too, but I understand. Good points. Your little SWAC bias, it happens. Charles, what are your thoughts?
You know what? I think because I've been with you long enough to understand the methodology of the poll, I agree with it. I knew that the FBS losses were not going to drag on Texas Southern or drag on Florida A&M. So I'm good with Texas Southern being right there at number 7 this week. When I take a look at the poll, probably no more impressive win than Alabama State this past weekend, especially when you essentially look, they're down to their 3rd string quarterback. And it sort of showed us what we know about Alabama State. They can play some lights out defense, and when they need to run the ball, they're very rugged along the offensive line. They got that done. But if there was ever a team that was primed for upset this upcoming week, it was Miles going into Alabama State. And we talked about some of the issues Alabama State has had, protecting their house. So that's an impressive win. When you take a look at 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, no issues whatsoever. I think those teams are slotted just right. So that's a good poll this week. I think the computer ranking was right on top of things.
Thank you, Charles. We'll see what you say next Sunday. I know you'll be in Mississippi, and the weather might play havoc with you, but we'll see if we can get you on the show. As the viewer said, cut down on your glasses of wine so you can get up Sunday morning. Victory or not, we need to see you, Charles.
Yes.
Just make sure you give me your update of the Sunday version.
Yeah, I love a good bottle of vino, Doc. So, yes.
With that being said, we have a great guest talking about Jackson. Wait till we get to the other side. Be right back after this break.
Hey, grab me one too.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Lab. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Lab, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get...
Hey, grab me one too.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Will with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We're going to work to see if we can get our guests back in here in terms of after this break. With that being said, we're going to bring in none other than Coach T.C. Taylor, Jackson State University head football coach, my man. How you doing, Coach? It's a big game this week. I don't know if anybody told you.
Yeah, I've been hearing tell of something going on in Jackson this week.
Yeah, I know. That's at least what I heard. These guys won't let me know enough about it, which lets me know, Coach, I know you don't get into these poll rankings. You know what I'm saying? You want to be ranked at the end of the season when it counts. But, I did have you in the top poll ranking this year, preseason 3, tough opening game. Things didn't work out. You're right on the outside coming in this weekend. But I'm really not going to ask you about the poll rank. What I want you to let you know that these two Jackson folks were actually mad because I had Southern in the bottom 21. I'm like, hey, Charles Jackson, why are you fighting so hard for these Southern folks? I need you to talk to your guys, man.
Well, I think I need them to call me on the side. They must know something I don't know. I think I need to Saturday.
So, Coach, I let them take over and really get in some questions because I think it's fair to let family really get the chance to have time to let everybody else know about T.C. Taylor. But the question I do have for you, the talk is for Coach, and this is Coach talk, and I know what it is trying to get the players to focus on the game at hand. How do you go into a game that's a rivalry game? Do you really have to say anything about a rivalry game, whether it's Southern Alcorn, particularly in those games, or a big game coming up because first place is on the line or something like that? FAMU kind of now in terms of what happened over the last couple of years as they moved into the SWAC. Alabama State, how that has kind of gone back and forth. How do you handle those weeks as you prepare for practice? Is there any extra music, or do you play it in the role as like, hey, this is another game. We got to concentrate on getting better play-by-play, week to week?
Yeah, Doc, what we kind of do, I tell them the magnitude of a game like we're going into this weekend, being a former player and a fan, growing up as here at Jackson State, and they understand it. They read the press clippings, they see the social media, everybody kind of going back and forth, so they kind of understand what's going on. But what I always make sure that we are able to block that out and understand it's about us versus that opponent. We do a good job of that here, my coaches, myself, and these players focusing up on, just going out there and take care of the business at hand, and that's going out here and getting the win this weekend. But, you could try to tell them and explain it to them, but until they see it, 40, 50,000 in the stands, and, that energy gets to pumping. It was like this weekend, I explained to them, for the WC Gordon Classic, first home game at the vet, you know, and they was like, coach, we're gonna go out here and take care of business. I said, yeah, but you're gonna have to block out the other stuff. And you know, and I remember like when we go to the pregame, you know, the boom makes the entrance, you know, and then like when the boom makes that entrance at the pregame. So they come off the field and we back in the locker room, they're like, coach, this is a little bit different here, especially a bunch of the new guys. A bunch of the new guys, it's a little bit different here, coach. But they love it. You know, they want to play, they want to play in these electric atmospheres. So, you know, and you want to play big time college football, you know, and I love it too as well. Our coaches love it here because, you know, they talk about HBCUs is a big time college football going on. Yeah, we got big time atmosphere, big time games going on, and one this weekend.
No doubt about it. With that being said, you know, quietly, you know, I don't know, nobody's listening. Tell Travis that the poll rankings will be released on Sunday. So he needs to make sure that they're part of the SID. You know, the new guy over there, I'm not sure he understands, you know, Jackson State, everything yet. I heard he's, you know, kind of inculcating himself into the system. But after you get this big victory, you know, I'm just saying, you know, I know it's early. You can't talk like that. But if you would, just let him know to pay attention to that. Because, you know, being outside the top 10 win, you probably get in the top 7. That's a big deal.
Doc, I'll let y'all handle all. That's why y'all got those big time jobs and dealing with all that. Hey, the thing that
I tried. Get me out of this trouble, man. Charles, ask your question.
I'm kind of disappointed nobody gave me the memo about the Blazers in the time. I'm looking at y'all. I was like, man, do I need to go put on the jacket right?
You good, coach.
You came out of sight. You good. You got to see these boys. No, especially Wilton. You know, he just moved from adjunct professor to visitor professor. He better look the part. Charles, go ahead.
Yeah, coach. Let me ask this question. And I'm curious about this. I know it's early in the season, but is there an intangible that you have noticed early about this team, or is it still too early to kind of put your thumb on the pulse of who this team is?
We still got a long way to go, Chuck. You know, it's a lot of football games left in this season, but for us, you know, this game being a SWAC opponent, it's going to tell me a lot about our football team this weekend. You know, I thought we came out and played a solid game, not our best against a Monroe team, an FBS opponent. Coming back this weekend, playing in the vet against Lane, you know, a Division II program over there. I feel like we did what we supposed to do, you know, against those guys. So this is the one right here that's going to kind of set the tone and let me know where we are as a program, as a football team for this 2024 season. You know, we recouping some guys from injury from last year going into this game, you know, got a couple quarterbacks playing at a high level right now. So this is the game right now that's going to really, you know, determine what Jackson State is going to look like this 2024 season.
And quick follow-up to that, I wanted to ask you about the quarterbacks. You alluded to them, but is there, from a fan's perspective, the skill set is somewhat similar, but do you see a difference in Cameron and Jacoby in terms of what they bring to the huddle?
Both are winners. You know, first of all, both guys, both young men are winners. First thing first, great leaders. I've been saying it all along. We got some guys here that can really play that position, and they've shown it the last couple of weeks. Jacobian had a strong outing against Monroe, and we wanted to play Cam in that game because we know what he was capable of. But, you know, Jacoby had developed some rhythm, and we didn't, you know, try not to disrupt that in that game. But this was a game this past weekend we said we got to take a look at Cam McCoy and see what he is. You know, we've been seeing it all at practice. Wilt, you've been out there. You've seen him move around. He can spin the football. You know, probably the fastest kid on our team, you know, fastest football player on our team with the speed and stuff. So, you know, and he showed it this weekend, 4 touchdowns, you know, 2 rushing, 2 passing. So we got to, you know, we're in a good position. Let me say that. We're in a good position to have 2 guys that are very explosive. You know, with Jacobian, we won last year with him. You know, we won last year with him. And I keep saying you got to have 2 guys ready to go. And, you know, dealing with, say, for instance, what Alabama State is dealing with right now, you know, with the injury bug, with the quarterback position. You know, we got several guys here that can really play. So we're going to continue to evaluate it. It's going to be a great week of practice for those guys, and we'll, you know, make the decision on who's going to get the nod going into this weekend.
Sure.
Coach, a lot of people, of course, you know, but a lot of people are kind of still trying to feel their way out about this Southern team. While a lot of things are still the same about them, some things are a little different. From your perspective, what do you think will be the ultimate reason as to why Jackson State would get a win?
It's got to be sort of like that game what we played this past weekend. You know, you get explosive plays at all three phases of the game. You know, you talk about special teams, offense and defense. So we definitely, I always start with the turnover battle. You know, you don't want to get a football away in a game like this. Don't know the conditions with the weather situation coming up right now. The vet is a grass field, It's not turf, so we're going to get some heavy rain here in the next couple of days. And the execution piece, the execution piece is going to be critical. Who can put the best plan together for us, coaching staffs, and these kids can go out here and execute that plan. So I think that's what it's going to come down to. And defensively, you got two really good defenses from what I'm seeing. Southern has been doing a great job. They got some stout guys up front. Our defense has been playing at a high level. So, the team that can keep people out of the end zone and the ones that can execute better and the team that doesn't turn the football over.
Quick follow-up to Southern, obviously a heavy-based running team. When you look at that and like with the conditions, with the field in terms of, it could be messy on the field, running, being able to stop the run could be a big issue. What's been your message to your defense specifically along the line and especially in that linebacker position?
When you get hands on them, get them to the turf. Get them to the turf. It's the yards after contact for us. I really emphasize that weekly with our guys. That was one of the deals we wasn't very successful against Monroe. They had a lot of yards after contact. Those guys over there, those young men ran the football hard, and we was, there, with making some tackles, but then it was times we were melting off guys. So we got to get them to the turf, especially in these kind of conditions that could potentially be happening this weekend. So that's the big emphasis. There's been more tackling drills in practice this week, and just getting ready in case that, the conditions are like that this weekend.
With that being said, let me ask this last question. I know your time's very valuable. We want to get you out of here because we don't want any of the Jackson State, the faithful, sitting up here. We took you away from your time. That's what. No, we don't want none of that. But in terms of this type of season with so many unknowns coming in, how do you attack the year when we as pundits, we try to break down everything, ask these questions. With that being said, how much are we off base? Where do we need to go to be able to talk and provide more balance about coverage of Jackson State or the SWAC or HBCUs in football, if you would?
I think to answer your question is, for me, I know it's tough what you guys have to do. I was just sitting there as y'all was breaking down that poll. It's so early in the season. Your reps on the line. Reputation's on the line, but it's like I tell my team and my coaches, let's just line up and play the games. Let's play the games. This is going to be, I think, one of the most exciting seasons this season because, like you said, it's so much uncertainty. It's a lot of dark horses out there. You don't know what's going on down in Daytona. You don't know what's going over there in Huntsville. You flip over to the other side. Alcorn is 0-2 right now, but they gonna have a solid football team when they jump into the conference play. I think this thing can go either way. Once the conference play start, we get into conference play for as this league as well as the MEAC conference. This one, it's just this season is wide open. I thought last year, Willie had a veteran team over there. It was a veteran football team over there at FAMU, and they're playing good football right now. Coach is doing a great job getting a lot of new players starting to gel together, but it's just so much uncertainty. So you just gotta. It's week in, week out. You got to bring your A game. For each and every one of these programs.
Charles, you want to ask a quick one?
Yeah, really quick question, TC, and as a play caller, are there any emerging trends that you've seen in football this past season, especially when you start taking a look at the way teams are motioning backs and motioning receivers and just trying to get more speed in space? Are there things that you have noticed or something that you can come back to let me see, can I incorporate this?
Well, what you're doing, what you see a lot more now, these play callers are getting the ball in the hands of guys that can score touchdowns. That's what the name of the game is all about. You can sit up and dress up and scheme up all these great plays, put the eye candy with those motions and stuff you're talking about. But when you hand the ball off or when you're throwing it, it better be going to your most explosive players. And that's how we look at it over here. That's how I go about it as a play caller. Get the ball in the most explosive guys' hands and let them do the rest. And I always said it, I've been doing this a long time. It's not about the X's and O's and the N's, the Jimmys and the Joes. Those are the guys that's going to get you over. If you don't have Jimmys and Joes, I don't care how great of a play caller you are. You out there just, fighting a winless battle. But, the motions and stuff that helps, with the way these linebackers play in our league, they get downhill, play fast now. The game has changed. The game has changed so much from what we remember. I remember fullbacks having the big neck roll and everybody running lead. You got 260-pound linebackers and stuff like that. Doesn't exist no more. You got linebackers now that are like 210 pounds, but just can fly, but still bring, brings a lot of contact to the game. You don't see. You tell me something. When the last time have you heard of somebody recruiting a fullback?
Yeah.
What I mean?
That's a good point.
It don't even really exist no more because the tight end now position is just until this is a receiver now. A lot of these tight ends are just want to play receivers. They're not really interested in blocking. So you just try to evolve with times, and as the game continue to evolve, you just try to stay up with times and to continue to grow as an offense. You don't want to be stuck doing the same things you did the previous years because, these teams and these coaches are getting so smart. They study tape. So you got to continue to evolve as play callers.
Sure. Good stuff, Coach. Before we let you go, it would be interesting. I know my folks down there at FAMU, they plan to do two-peat in Atlanta, start in Atlanta, finish in Atlanta. You got Roy over there, AD, Brian, Kelvin, to name a few. And then, my side, there's something about, Prairie View, Texas Southern. It'd be interesting first time over there. But I know Charles and Wilton and D and Lynch Street folks, they love to find a way to come back to Atlanta. And particularly if it was a rematch against North Carolina Central. It's something about that T.C. Taylor, Trey Oliver. I think it would give the media a lot of talking points. So I'm just saying, fair warning, see what it look like, challenge, as they say. But in all seriousness, good luck on this season. Go do what you do, Coach. Particularly appreciate the way you're a builder of men and women that are around the program in terms of athletic trainers and things of that nature. So keep building, standing tall for Jackson State University. Appreciate your time, Coach.
All right. Thank you guys, man. I really appreciate you. I tell you all the time, appreciate what you guys do, man. It's not going unnoticed. Anything I can do anytime you want me on here, I'm here, man. Ready to go. I appreciate you guys.
Next time we'll give you the Blazer
I be thinking about that, but I don't want to get too far ahead.
Now that's real.
Hey, Doc, last year we had to start in Atlanta, finish in Atlanta. So now we're just taking it quarter by quarter right now.
There you go.
That's how we're looking at it.
Real talk.
Yeah,
well, I have the plane ticket there, but now I messed up. Now I'm looking to make sure I have my hotel. I was planning to get down there, but we'll see how it works out. If not, I'll make sure I send Charles to represent for inside the HBCU Sports Lab. With that being said, take care, Coach. We'll see you on the other side. We'll be right back after this break.
All right. Thank you, guys.
You think all pads are exactly the same? Think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call CAVIL.
At Automasters LLC, our mission is to serve our community by providing quality automobiles at affordable prices. All of our vehicles are inspected and certified to offer you the confidence in knowing you have a quality vehicle. Our goal is to provide you with a seamless process and positive experience for your automobile purchase. Financing recommendations and specific vehicle inquiries are available at your request. You can find us at www.automasters06.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please feel free to contact Terrence Miles at 601-927-7794. And oh yeah, tell him Sonia sent you.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Great job, fellas, with the interview there. I always appreciate TC Taylor. You talking about history in terms of what he brings to the table. Fascinating. Always pushing for him to see him do well. With that being said, this last segment, let's focus on a couple of games that have your interest this week. Let's pick two apiece. There are a couple of matchups that I'll put out there just to put in the ether, and you can decide if they grab your fancy or if you want to go off the radar. I'm not going to go with the FBS HBCU matchups. You know, I just have a thing about it. We kind of open the show with some different thoughts in terms of quote unquote money games. But there are some matchups, two games in the SWAC, one in the MEAC in terms of HBCU D2 matchups. So we'll see that again. All of these feature the SIAC, intriguing enough. So we'll see what that looks like. But there are a couple of matchups in terms of FCS, HBCUs against historically white college, HWCUs, as I like to talk about, Wagner, Delaware State, Alabama State, Sanford. Some of those games you got to keep your eyes on. Grambling and Texas Commerce. Conference game in terms of that type of matchup is North Carolina and Delaware, North Carolina A&T. In Delaware, I should say. You got Mississippi, Murray State, to name a few of them. You also have, as I said, those D2 matchups, Edward Waters versus Alcorn, Morehouse versus Howard, in terms of what that looks like. So I'm fascinating to see where that may go in terms of those type of matchups. Charles, what's on your mind? What piques your interest this week? And one more I'll talk about in the MEAC is a big one for me also is that Hampton versus Norfolk State. But where are you going this week?
Well, I think that was one that I was taking a look at is Hampton and Norfolk State in terms of looking at that Battle of the Bay. That's going to be a fascinating matchup to me. The other one that I'm paying attention to, and I'm always paying attention to the regionality of the SWAC and Southland games, especially when you take a look at Prairie View last week, good road win. But Grambling going to Texas A&M Commerce, I think that's one that I'm going to pay attention to. Texas A&M Commerce's quarterback threw for over 400 yards this past week, so it'll be a good test for the Grambling secondary. So those are a couple of games that I kind of have an eye on. And honorable mention, Edward Waters at Alcorn. Alcorn opens up things on the reservation this weekend, so it'll be interesting to see if you continue to see that SWAC SIAC dominance.
Well, I like the way you go and the way you think there. I want to give update as you picked some of those regionalities. Southland, you said, historically white college, FCS. In this case, Southland SWAC matchups. Week one, when you look at HBCU, FCS against historically white colleges, the MEAC was 1-0. The SWAC was 0-1. And you had an 0-1 in terms of what we call our independents. Week two, you had in terms of that, you had week two, you had the MEAC go 2-2, the SWAC go 1-2, and 0-1 in terms of independence. So fascinating to see what that looks like. The SWAC was 2-0 over the MEAC in the first week, 0-1 against Tennessee State, and the MEAC was 1-0 against Hampton last week. In terms of that matchup, week number one. So it'll be fascinating to see because we do have that Tennessee SWAC matchup. Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Tennessee State.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting that you have that independent MEAC matchup. We don't have the MEAC SWAC matchup as we saw that go down last week. So it'll be fascinating to see as that is now 2-1. Wilton Jackson, what direction are you going?
You kind of just talked about the game, the first one I was going to talk about, which was that Tennessee State and Arkansas Pine Bluff. You're talking about a program in Arkansas Pine Bluff. You know, everybody looks at records and say, oh, it's like the same Arkansas Pine Bluff team we've seen in previous years. But, you know, I know for me, I've always been a big advocate of Alonzo Hampton's energy. I'm just waiting to see if he's going to be able to put that together with that team. Obviously, he's going to go up against a good Tennessee State team with, you know, of course, led by Eddie George. So I'm interested to see how both coaches kind of capitalize and come into this game, because this was a if I'm not mistaken, a close game last year. If I'm not mistaken, Tennessee State, I think they won on a field goal late in that game, if I'm not mistaken. I know Tennessee State won the game, but they won off of that late game field goal. So I'm interested to see, has Hampton, you know, have the players playing under Hampton this year bought into, you know, more into his system, and are they going to take those next steps? Because here's the thing: if Arkansas Pine Bluff does win that game, I think that's a big step for you know, Hampton's regime. Obviously, if Eddie George, this is just for him. I feel like for Tennessee State, this is the next step, you know, within other steps that they need to take as a program. And then also for me, I think now more than ever, I think I've watched more Clark Atlanta football this than I've ever watched with the Clark Atlanta football. I think you got something to do with that, Dr. Cavil. I'm telling you, I was like, you know what? I watched the game this past week and I was reaching out. Everybody knows Keisha Kelly, you know, and so she's always on, you know, Morehouse and Clark and stuff like that. And so I was like, you know, let me tune into this Clark game. So of course they get Florida Memorial this week. I'm gonna see if they're gonna go 3-0. You know, I just want to see how well Clark is gonna they're gonna play. I'm excited to see that. Like I said, this is a team obviously we know didn't win a game last year. And they could be on the verge of winning 3.
That's crazy. That is crazy when you think about it. You talking about a nice road trip into Miami. Got to keep your head focused. You know, Atlanta's not no shabby itself, but Miami's a different beast when you get down there. NIA, big win last week against Edward Waters, so you get a chance to kind of make another statement. I like where you go on that, and I appreciate the shout out and kudos. Shout out to Keisha Kelly. Let her know that I said she's on top of it, getting it done. She's best in the business out there. And then you talk about that Murray State, Mississippi Valley. I'm intrigued about that. Murray State was 0-2 as they came in there. Obviously, the first one against Missouri, they did what they did, but they lost to Butler, the 19-17. So I'm fascinated to see can Valley find a way to go on the road and get a tough victory. Can they find a way to get over the hump? That game against Lamar, you know, people just thought it was the same old Valley. That was a really strong contest they played. It was a 7-point game. They were going to tie the game. And in fact, the coach said on the media conference yesterday that they were going to go for 2. And they got what for him he thought was a bad call where they call it an interception. He said it was clearly that the ball hit the dirt, but that's the kind of things that happen on the road. So you got to find a way to get it done. But to his credit, you see a different level of team. Can he make the hump? I love what you talked about Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Tennessee State. I'm fascinated about that matchup. You know, can Arkansas, Pine Bluff make a statement in most people's eyes, right? Can they get it done in that? Norfolk State, Hampton. It's a chance for Norfolk State to kind of continue to climb. They surprised everybody, opening things up. They took the loss. We understood that against FBS. They found a way to exercise a demon against Virginia State, much like Alabama State. Got it done. And this is with a backup quarterback as well. Remember, their starting quarterback is out for the first 4 games. Right. Can they find a way just to stick around and get a couple of wins, get some confidence? What does this mean going into conference play? Fascinating with those kind of matchups. So I think you all make some great points. Good football this weekend to see what that looks like. And we'll see on the other side. You mentioned Edward Waters, Charles, and Alcorn. Good thing there. Obviously, a lot of people's eyes are going to be Southern and Jackson. Just because of the value of what those 2 programs bring to the table. Intrigued to see which team will find a way to get those bragging rights. Alabama State at Sanford. You know, Sanford 0-2. Another chance for HBCU FCS program SWAC to get a win over FCS WCU. Going on the road can make a clear statement. Wilton, as you talk about, still trying to figure out where they are. Can they get it done? We saw Sanford against Alabama A&M last year, where A&M started off pretty well in that game and fell off. Can they get it done against Sanford this week? Delaware State, as they got the FCS win, can they make another statement and continue to raise people's eyebrows? So I'm fascinated to see some of the key matchups this weekend. Clark Atlanta, Florida Memorial, intriguing, Kentucky State. And we'll talk a little bit more about those D2 programs on Thursday, so check it out. Tomorrow, remember, we have the Independents with Dave and Jeffrey coming on and giving you some updates. So we'll do that. We'll see if we can get Wilton to stay with his visiting professors. We might have them in terms of getting us some stuff done with Kyle Mosley on Friday. We'll see if we can debut that. And don't be surprised if we find to give you something on Monday. We're trying to give you a wraparound, Charles. Monday through Friday. We'll go with Carlos. On Saturday, we do the game time also on Saturday throughout the season. And then Sunday, we're going to give you nothing other than Inside the HBCU and tell you everything you missed on Saturday as you will focus on your team. We'll tell you about the other team. And then we're going to unveil the top 7 in the major division. With that, we'll call it a close, Charles. Thank you for listening Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday. We'll be back on Thursday at 6 o'clock and then on Sunday at 9 a.m., all at Central Time, as you know. We look forward to Thursday as we give you back in the news. But make sure you tune in tomorrow. Also on Friday, we'll get you going on your late night evening, getting you ready for the weekend as you get traveling. Tune us in. They'll give you the latest news of what is taking place to prepare you for your Saturday games. With that, also notice with Roy next Wednesday late at night, we're going to give you some business of sports and some talk like that as well. So with that, Kyle Mosley, Wilton Jackson, look for them on Friday. We're going to keep it going. Dream big. Continue to move forward. That's Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. DrKNYATTHCAVIL. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube and Facebook. We will talk with you soon. Charles.
Of course.
Wilton.
Lecture.
Dismiss. So you're going to keep that visiting professor tag. My black job is to work. Let the people